Hey Flock, Mike here from Epic Duck Studios, and welcome to the assembly guide for the Clone Troopers from the Star Wars Shatterpoint core set. Now right off the bat, we're looking at the wrong sprue here because I didn't film that one. The Clone Troopers are on the second sprue, not the sprue that Anakin and Rex are on. You'll be looking for the parts on the frame that start with the letter C. Just a quick note that some of the small pieces that only attach the sprue at a single point, like helmets and thermal detonators, can be loose in the bag. They occasionally will pop off the sprue during shipping, so just take a look there for them if you happen to be missing any on your sprue. Now there are two clones here, and they are technically two distinct models, but they're all part C on the frame, and they do share one profile in the game, so I'm just building them together. But I'm going to build them sequentially, so I'm going to clip all the parts for the first clone, and then follow up with the second. While you're building these models, it's worth having the official assembly diagrams open on your phone, tablet, or computer. You can find those at epicduck.com/Shatterpoint. However, some places assembly can be made just a tiny bit easier or more clear, and I'm hoping to point those out for you. Once you've got all the parts of Clone Trooper A clipped from the sprue, it's time to start removing mold lines. They're really minimal, and if you're just doing quick tabletop paint jobs, don't worry about them at all, but if you want something a little more clean, a little more professional, you can remove those easily with the side of an X-Acto blade and some light scraping. The most obvious mold lines run along the side of the clone's legs and across the top of the helmet. You'll also generally end up with small bumps where the model connected to the sprue. How large those bumps are will really depend on how close your clippers cut to the model. The clippers I'm using are God Hand PN125s. They're about 25 to 30 bucks a piece, and they do a really good job of making a nice flush cut, but there's still a tiny little bit of cleanup to do. So once you're satisfied with your mold line cleanup, it's time to begin assembly. I'm using Mr. Hobby Mr. Cement S here. It's basically the same product as Tamiya Extra Thin, with the added bonus that I can get it from a local hobby store. This cement does dry very quickly, and sometimes you'll want to put on 2 or 3 coats of it to make sure it's fluid enough that it's still a little bit tacky when you go to put your pieces together. I'm giving the front and back of the torso here a really good squish, just holding it for a few seconds, and then it'll be ready to move on. With a little bit of plastic cement in the neck hole on the torso, the helmet attaches really easily. Make sure you're facing it correctly. It is keyed, but there's a little bit of wiggle. You want to make sure he's kind of looking over his right shoulder. The next part to attach is the back of his belt, and there is no lack of contact point here. There's the big flat area above his butt, the left and right hip kind of has a little contact, and of course there's the tab it actually slides into. You can slide the belt right into that little slot, give it a little bit of pressure to make sure it's well seated, and you're good to go. The left and right arms basically form a little tripod because they meet in the middle at the left wrist. It's easier to assemble this with the left arm first because it is simply the smaller piece. Once the left arm is set, you'll want to get a little bit of plastic cement in the right shoulder and then on the left wrist. Once you pop the arm into the shoulder joint, it basically lines up with the wrist all on its own, but you can give it a little bit of a wiggle, make sure it slides in there, and make sure the glue sets. After that, we just need to put the model on a base. With a little plastic cement on the bottom of the feet, I just firmly push down on the toes to keep the model on the base, make contact there for a few seconds. To make sure the feet make really good contact with the base, I put a little bit of MIG red magma cement around the feet as well. With the first clone done, it's time to start building the second one by removing all of its parts from the sprue. These builds are very similar, but there are a few more pieces to the second clone because his legs aren't part of the same piece as part of his torso. We're going to walk through the exact same process again, looking for mold lines. There's a few more of them just because the torso and legs aren't one contiguous piece. As always, pay attention to where you clip the pieces off the frame because there might be little tiny pieces of sprue left there. Once again, the most obvious mold line is the one running across the top of the helmet. This is the one you'll probably want to tackle even if they don't generally bother you, because being at the top of the model, it's the one that will stand out the most. With all the pieces prepped, we're ready for assembly. I'm going to begin by putting some plastic cement all the way around the outside edge of the torso and then a little bit in the slot that the tab fits into. Once you've got the front and back of the torso lined up, just push it together with a decent amount of pressure to make sure that the plastic cement really welds. Once the plastic glue is set, you can add a little plastic glue to the back so you can then attach the back of the belt and the thermal detonator. Next, you'll want to attach the Clone Trooper's legs. It doesn't particularly matter which order the legs go on, they don't really interfere with each other in any meaningful way, so just pick one, start, and then do the next. With the second Clone Trooper's arms, neither one has the gun attached, so you can put these on in any order as well. The gun is going to straddle across both arms. To help seat the arms firmly, I like to push on both of the shoulder pads, kind of squishing the arms both into the torso. The clone's gun attaches at the right wrist and the entire left forearm. Because the left forearm is the larger of the two contact points, you'll want to start there, putting the forearm together and then pivoting it onto the right wrist. Okay, we're just about done. A little plastic cement in the neck, pop the helmet on there, and then we can get this model on a base. Here we just need a little bit of plastic cement on the bottom of each of the feet, and a nice little push down. Just hold the toes in place, let it set for a couple seconds, and you should be good to go. Alright, both your clones should be built now, and if you're following along with me, that is now your first squad done. Thanks for watching, and until next time, do something epic.